The drivetrain. Topics to be covered in this module: the function and components of a drivetrain, the difference between a manual and automatic, types of fluid and lubricants, the difference between drives. Summary. Assessment questions will be included at the end of each module to ensure that you have understood the information. The function and components of a drivetrain. The drivetrain, or powertrain, are the conjoined parts that are responsible for the final transfer of energy from the engine to the wheels. It's the final stage of conversion from a chemical reaction to rotational power. It possesses three main parts: the transmission, the drive shaft or drive line, the differential. Note well, in four-wheel drive vehicles, a transfer case is also considered to be part of the drivetrain. The power from the rotating crankshaft in the engine does not immediately translate into the same amount of power expended into the wheels. Like most vehicles, this comes from the gears, where high gears mean higher speeds and vice versa. The gears are housed in the transmission, which translates the movement from the crankshaft into output speed. This is converted by gear ratios, which means the crankshaft might go around 4 times, equally an output of just 1 turn on the tire. This would be a ratio of 4,000 RPMs, revolutions per minute, input to get 1,000 RPMs output, a ratio of 4 to 1. Each gear has a different ratio and is mastered by different sized sprockets. The drive shaft, or line, is the distinctive long tube sited directly under the car. This transfers the energy from the transmission to the differential. Front-wheel drives won't have drive shafts, but some four-wheel drives have more than one. A differential is basically a gear train that has high-powered gears. These are gears which transmit the rotation of the drive shaft 90 degrees, which turns the axles of the wheels. There are spider gears in the center part of the differential that allows the wheels to travel different distances while turning. This means the outer drive wheel can rotate quicker than the inner drive wheel, which is necessary during any sharp turn or driving maneuver. The difference between a manual and automatic. A vehicle with a manual transmission, which is sometimes called a standard transmission, operates with conventional gears. All the gears are always running when the engine is active and the clutch is released. When the driver selects a gear with a gear shift, then that gear is attached to the output shaft and dictates the ratio of the wheels. To change gears, the clutch is depressed and the next gear is selected, determining which new mechanism attaches to the output shaft. The gears are selected manually by the driver and at their whim. A vehicle with an automatic transmission uses gears that are commonly known as sun and planet gears. This refers to the visual appearance of the components, which has a large central gear wheel, sun, surrounded by 3 or 4 smaller gear wheels, planets. This construct is crafted to turn or hold multiple speeds and directions, as seen fit by the internal system. Each gear is selected by multiple clutches, or bands, that are applied automatically by a valve body and controls the gear selection, rather than just waiting for manual input from the driver. Types of fluid and lubricants. There's several types of liquids and lubricants that are unique to the drivetrain. Automatic transmission fluid, sometimes known simply as ATF, or just transmission fluid. This is used primarily, and unsurprisingly, by vehicles that have automatic transmissions or are self-shifting. It's usually colored red or green to make sure it stands out from other fluids in the car. It's designed for the special needs of the transmission parts, as well as gear lubrication. It's also used as a hydraulic fluid in some vehicles that have power-assisted steering. There are multiple different types of transmission fluid, and the owner's manual should be referred to for the right choice. Standard transmission lubricant. Sometimes just called gear oil, many lubricants for manual gearboxes have extreme pressure, e.g., additives and anti-wear additives to cope with the constant sliding actions of the manual gears. The lubricants can be of multiple varieties and should be guided by the manufacturer's specifications. Lubricants used in differentials. Differential oil, or gear oil again, is another type of motor oil that is specifically designed for an automobile part. This is formulated to provide the proper lubrication for the gears and the differential of any vehicle. It does differ from other oil in being much thicker and more viscous, to ensure it coats all the associated parts efficiently. They are often known as 80 to 90 gear oil, due to the very heavy weight of the fluid. The difference between drives. To learn the main differences between a front-wheel drive, a rear-wheel drive and a four-wheel drive vehicle, you have to understand the relationship between the drivetrain parts and how it transmits the harnessed energy to the wheels. Front-wheel drive. A front-wheel drive vehicle merges a differential and transmission into essentially one part called a transaxle. This transmits the power from the engine directly to the front wheels. Rear-wheel drive. A rear-wheel drive vehicle transmits all the power through a transmission to the drive shaft and then to a differential that is sited in the rear end of the car. Four-wheel drive. A four-wheel drive vehicle transmits power through the transmission and then to a transfer case, which then sends the energy through the front and rear drive shafts and onto the front and rear differentials. Some four-wheel drives will use a front transaxle and a rear differential. The needs of the motorist will obviously drive their choice of car. Summary. In this module, we have covered the following points. The drivetrain is responsible for transferring the energy from the engine to the wheels. There are three main components to a drivetrain. An automatic transmission relies on a complex set of gears to allow its versatility. The differential and transmission rely on various lubricants to operate smoothly. A transaxle is the merging of transmission and differential.